See how loud this thing comes through. I got one of these at home. Hold up. We gotta get the hole right. Song bowl. Gotta get your skills up if you never used one before. Checking the stream here. Y'all let me know. Hope this joint ain't delaying. Okay, there we go. Yeah, we got the banana plant checking things out in the background. All right, so I guess until people get notifications about the video, that's kind of always up in the air, but as always, video will be here if people need it. We are going over a question that I got on Instagram, which was to go over the effect of fruit on diabetes. And I may or may not have gone over that in the past, but we can do that. Got the whiteboard in case I need to illustrate anything. So, as always, I don't mind saying certain things that's been on past streams because some people get in at certain points, and I just want to make sure people understand, regardless of who's new and who's not. RTP, Emmanuel Briggs, what's going on? Wanted to go over first. Keep in mind that the video I'm talking about diabetes type 2. You can apply some of the science to diabetes type 1, but this is primarily diabetes type 2 because that's the one there's extreme amounts of success reversing. So diabetes type 1, that's kind of up in the air because the issue is you just don't get the proper insulin production from the pancreas from birth, as they explain in most cases, right? And y'all let me know the sound is good. Let me know that the sound is good. I know sometimes I have the music playing in the background. Some of y'all can hear it. Don't think it's either too loud or loud at all, so it shouldn't interfere with anything. But yeah, the question I got was talking about fruit and diabetes. So I got anything extra here? Nope. But the importance of whole fruit and diabetes. We're not talking about like candy fruit. We're not talking about like syrups and stuff like that. Whole fruit. Whole fruit, smoothies, juices, things that uses the actual fruit content. So diabetes, type 2 diabetes, a metabolic disorder, meaning it has to do with how your body processes the things it receives in order to build or tear down your body, metabolic processes. So generally, type 2 diabetes is related to an overabundance of saturated fat and sugar in the system. Now, we kind of like to lump the word carbohydrate and sugars in with one another because it's usually dealing with sugars coming from plants, because that's where sugar comes from. Sugar comes from plants. Primarily, the sugar that most people get involved with is sugar cane, because sugar cane is broken down to become sugar in the raw, brown sugar, white sugar, and different other things. And then you have like the side sugars, like artificial sweeteners, so to speak, like what's it? equal Splenda. Some people will even use what do you call it? The plant that everybody started using after a while. And then you have things like agave nectar, honey, maple syrup. So there's a bunch of different sweeteners that go along with everything, right? Oh, Davita's in the cut. Yeah, of course. Hold on, what we got? Yeah, gotta have a background there, right? But yes, there's multiple types of sweeteners that we use in different foods, and I always warn people about, especially when it comes to diabetes, when it comes to health in general, not getting caught up in gimmick terms, salesman terms, superfood, alkalinity, what's it? Healthier with the IER on the edge, pH, and the purpose being is because the gimmick terms gets us in trouble, because people want to rely on these scientific breakdowns of things to assume that it's just as good as the whole food version, right? Like it's one thing to talk about eating an apple as a whole, but it's a whole other thing when we use the word like what's a good one? Fiber, superfood, vitamin A, C, B, all these different things, right? It's nothing more than a breakdown of things and a name being given to that breakdown. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that nature receives a push and pull force from things in it. And that push and pull force causes things to either be created or to be torn down. Torn down is what we would call entropy. Entropy being the case where things tend to break down, and some people will call it things falling into chaos. But entropy is things breaking down into their smallest parts so that other things can use them to build back up. So when we say vitamin A, C, B, carbs, fats, proteins, all that, we're just talking about what foods and different things in nature break down into in order so that you can take them in to build yourself back up. Because if we were to say something has like this is a carbohydrate. So it will have sugar in it. It will have fiber, water, and different minerals inside of it. But it's only so that when we eat it, our body can break it down a certain way to use the materials to build us up. So in general, we have to keep that in mind. Moon Rocker is in the building. What's going on? What's going on to all of y'all out there? If you are brand new or if you're just showing up here, make sure you hit the like button to make sure that the word about the live stream gets out. The second thing is make sure you subscribe if you have not already. If you cannot chat, it is because you have not subscribed. Subscribing means you can instantly chat. I did not put a delay on it. I just want to make sure that we get the subscribers to help build the channel. That's what we do out here in these YouTube streets. So appreciate y'all for anyone who helps out. See, we got the fresh Urban Nerd swag. I didn't wear my colored version. We got our spinning logo right there, right? So you guys can see the spinning colored logo. Make sure if you guys are supporting Urban Nerds, you go and get you a classic logo shirt. Preferably like the logo you see to the side, color classic logo before you get anything else. That helps people kind of recognize when Urban Nerds are spreading as Urban Nerds worldwide, as we say, right? But anyway, back to the point, right? The student master, what is going on? But anyway, back to the point. We're talking about diabetics and eating fruit. So let's get down into the nitty gritty. People who have diabetes type 2 have a metabolic disorder, which means there is something that they have been eating and taking in from their environment that has caused the load of insulin in the body to be in the bloodstream with glucose, because there's just too much saturated fat or sugars floating around in the blood. So eventually when it sits long enough, it starts to cause what they call insulin resistance. Remember, it's insulin resistance. However, we got to put some details behind these things so that we understand what we're talking about here. The purpose of insulin is a signal for the body cells, the cells that make up your body, to take in the glucose in order so that the energy can be burned. However, there's a feedback mechanism. Whenever the sugar cannot be burned, it will be turned into fat. So for those of you who remember your high school studies, middle school studies, we would talk about the citric acid cycle. So the food comes into your stomach, goes into the stomach. Basically, you should get it chewed and broken down as much as you can so that your saliva collects around the food. We call that the bolus. And then you swallow that because that gel-like structure already from the saliva and the foods and the enzymes coming together makes the food easy to bring down. It hits the stomach. The stomach pushes in a bunch of digestive acids and juices, which can come out of the liver, the pancreas, gallbladder, different things. So you got the pepsin, the amylase, and the different stuff that helps you break down the food to get the protein, the carbs, and the fats into their acid counterparts. So carbohydrates would break down into citric acid. So that's your acids there. Your fats would break down into fatty acids. That's your acids there. And your proteins would break down into amino acids. So that's that acid right there, right? So once it's done in the stomach and the acids hit it, breaks everything down, it now starts to move through the small intestine, which is slightly below, which breaks into three parts: the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. The duodenum is where most of the absorption of minerals are going to happen. So, with that being said, once the food is absorbed, it makes its way into the bloodstream and then the different constituents. Mainly, we're talking about carbohydrates here. Once those sugars get into the bloodstream, the body is going to secrete insulin from the pancreas. The pancreas is going to match the insulin up with the sugar, creating like a boyfriend-girlfriend couple who looks to enter the so-called club called the cell, and then the cell will take it through the citric acid cycle, the electron transport chain, and use the electrons coming from the food to power what we call the ATPase pump, which is an enzyme. It's adenosine triphosphate pump, creating ATP, which is the currency or the money that we use to allow your body to do work, okay? So we have that there. So the insulin's job is to help your body take up glucose into the cell so that it can either give you energy or be converted to fat. So technically insulin can help you gain weight, okay? You burn the energy, good. If you don't burn the energy and it starts to build up along with saturated fat, this is where the diabetes can creep in, because the sugar crystal alone is a dehydrator, okay? When there's sugars in your body floating around in the bloodstream and in the tissues and all that, there has to be liquid water present to wash away the excess glucose, or you need water in general just to make motion happen within the body. So we gotta have that water present. When there's no water present to move these things out, because the crystals are heavy, it'll make your blood sluggish and move slower, which means your heart has to pump harder, okay? So to keep that down, we need a good balance of solids and solutes, the water, the mineral content coming together. So we get those two coming together, helps move the sugar through the body where the insulin is present. As it's moving through that bloodstream, what I like to call the highway, then the insulin signal shows your cells that there's something to pull in to utilize to create energy. When the sugar sits too long in the bloodstream, it creates a drying effect. If your pancreas is receiving that drying effect, meaning there's damage being done in your body, then the insulin receptors, the thing that helps create the insulin, you got the alpha and the beta. The alpha is glucagon, which means your body needs sugar. So there's a signal saying we need sugar. So to find ways to have that either created, which is when your body takes the reserves, your fat breaks it down into sugars that your body can take up. And then there's insulin receptors, which is the beta cell, which allows your body to say there's a bunch of sugar and we need to burn some of it up, okay? So let's dive right in. The sugar, right? Let's see, Big Dog Philly OG in the building. So let's talk about the fruit. What separates the fruit from the so-called sugar? Let's go get our sugar so we have it as a comparison, right? Get our sugars, right? Bam! Sugars, right? Pure cane, turbinado, raw cane sugar, right? And then we got the one that does a lot of people in, right? Just spilled some of it. But pure cane sugar. So when we are talking about sugars that harm you, this is the primary culprit. Let me see if I can angle it so it's not too much glare. A lot of glare, block it a little bit. But pure cane sugar, the white stuff, right? That type of sugar and this type of sugar are not the same thing. We're talking about chemistry here. We're talking about the condition that the sugar is in. If I were to take this, or the sugar cane, or the mango, or the grape, or whatever, and extract the sugars, and then, go through a bleaching process where I dry out, I pretty much remove the packaging, the fibers, I remove the water, which dries it out, and then I do a chemical extraction process where I get nothing but the sugar crystals out of the actual apple. Remember, I have removed parts, which means I partially digested it, so to speak. Okay? Hold on, I might have some sounds in the background. Let me close up. Just in case that was too loud. Right? So, what we did by removing all of those different things from the food is we technically made it easier to go through that whole process I was talking about earlier. Because if we have the fiber packaging, we got the water, we got the minerals and all that stuff. When we hit the food, once we chew it up with all the digestive, acids and things like that, the hydrochloric acid in your stomach and stuff, then obviously it's a longer breakdown process. And fiber is very difficult to get into. Usually it's broken down by the bacteria that's inside your body. And just that alone means it slows the digestion. It's also a bulking agent because the fibers inside the food can also create a gel effect. Let me show you guys an example. We all know what water looks like. Surprisingly, I don't have nearby water. But what you're looking at that I have right here, this is a glass of psyllium husk inside of water. Now, obviously, we all know how water is. When we pour it out, it's very fast. It rushes through very fast. Now, on the last live stream, I did this, so now you'll get to see it. I have added psyllium husk to this water, and psyllium husk is known for being very high in fiber, so it can gel things. Let's take a look. See that? See, it's not just running down like regular water. Now it's gelled. Gel state is how your body keeps itself hydrated. It's the mineral content, it's the water combined. This fiber content bulks you up because it causes things to expand when it fills with water. That expanding feeling keeps you full. Because it keeps you full and it fills you up faster, it means you're not going to want to eat as much. It also means that the breakdown from the fibers, because you need the bacteria to do it, and because it's there, because it's not in this state, right? It's not already broken down. It's in this state. So it takes longer to break down than it does in this state. So that alone slows the digestion down and keeps you full longer. And if you have the gelling happening while you're eating the food, especially if you're taking in a lot of water, you're going to fill yourself up faster. And we know things with fiber tend to have less calories. So already right there, you're lowering your calorie load, which is the excess energy that you would have to burn up. And we're slowing down digestion, which means sugar in the bloodstream, your glucose numbers, your A1C, it spikes slower. You put something that's already broken down into your system, it can rush into the bloodstream faster and quick. So it causes the sugar numbers to spike fast. We call that glucose tolerance. Okay? So that's very important. So you have to understand, it is better to eat the food in this condition, even if you're diabetic. Now, does that mean that a diabetic person is supposed to specifically just take down all fruits? Well, I can kind of leave that up to you. Whole food fruit, not lots of it, you're exercising on a regular basis, probably no problem. You probably don't want to start off doing things like smoothies though, because when it's smoothies, you're getting all the fibers and all that stuff, but you're pulverizing it. You're creating part of the breakdown process, right? So the closer you get to the broken down process, then obviously the quicker it's going to get into your bloodstream. But this is the thing, you still got that fiber content. So it's going to slow down the digestion regardless. So that's what keeps the sugar from spiking a lot. And when you're exercising, so let's start combining those factors, right? I'm eating the whole food. It's going to, because it has the fiber, it's going to bulk me up faster. So it's going to bulk inside the intestinal wall. I also have the insoluble fiber, which is the skin around it, which means that it's going to take time for my bacteria to digest that. So I'm going to feel full longer. Things with fiber tend to have less calories than things that don't. So that right there is going to cause less residual energy to be added to the body. So just by changing the diet and properly putting correct foods into your body, you're bulking yourself up, you're eating less calories, and it's taking longer to digest. So the sugar levels are going to raise slower, and you're going to have less food in your system, adding to the energy load that people who have diabetes tend to be burning less than they're eating. So you're already moving in the right direction by just changing the type of food you're eating and adding additional fiber to it. The slow digestion makes fruit a plus over someone with diabetes eating processed stuff, meaning it's had this added. When I'm using white flour, white sugar, salts, butters, and all kinds of stuff, adding in the saturated fats, and I'm absorbing that into my system faster, remember, your body creates a balance. Just because you keep throwing things in does not mean your body's going to consistently keep ramping up the demand of action to get rid of these things, because there's a balance. If the body has to ramp up and use too many resources at one time, it could put you in a pretty, bad state concerning the way your body processes, right? Oh, thanks. So yeah, that sound was coming through. All right, so your body going through having processing happen faster, the donut, the Danish, the cheesecake, the pies, and all that different stuff. You're just talking about a bunch of combined factors with no fiber, and in many cases, it's bulked, but it's less water too. So you don't even add the thing that helps wash it out. Now that doesn't mean, because remember, you're getting into chemistry. The earth creates things in its proper formula and packaging. Minerals, fiber, water. It is us who decide that we can tear it apart, remove things from one another, and perhaps we can build it back in different ratios to give it better taste, right? Because obviously for most people, and don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about your health conscious person. I'm just talking about standard, regular, everyday person eating food. If I put this next to, let's say, a honey bun, most people choose the honey bun. Just like children, most of the time, if you put it on the menu when they're young, it's harder to feed them vegetables later. Because why? You can't have macaroni and cheese and pizza and chicken strips next to greens and, let's put the difficult stuff in there. Greens and beets and even fruit, and expect them to choose the beans and the greens and the fruit. Because the science of it all, the chemistry, was based on wanting you to love the taste so that you would spend more money on it, which means the nature's part kind of gets left in the wind. Not because all of nature's stuff is nasty, but because people crave the taste of the other thing, which is made with this. It's a chemical formula. It's not nature. It's not put in its proper formula. So just because we say something has minerals and water and fiber does not mean you can tear apart nature's version and try and create your own version and think you're going to get the same thing. People who eat cereal know this, because they always talk about, you can eat the cereal in order so that you can get your vitamins and minerals and things like that, right? And we're not talking about like nature cereal, like oatmeals and grains and things like that. We're talking about boxed cereal, right? Because people take in the boxed cereal and they see, there's this thiamine and B2 and B3 and all these different B vitamins and stuff like that, and calcium and fiber. They see that, but they don't understand there's different forms that comes in. Like for instance, you need cobalt, but then there's a cyanocobalamin that may be in your cereal, which means it's made with cyanide. So there's different versions of cobalamin out there. So once you get into chemistry, now you get into combination of chemicals. And when you don't know any better, people can say that these things have been added back in the artificial stuff, and you'll think that that's actually helping you. But nothing helps you better than nature. Nothing helps you better than nature. Some of you want to say, they're messing with the soil, they're messing with the ground, but still stands. Nothing helps you better than nature. The ER is on there on purpose. It's not saying that Everything you eat, because remember, we got to worry about that. We do got to worry about the ground and the soil and all that stuff like that. But if you're choosing between non-fibrous foods, the processed stuff, and the fiber stuff, then the fiber stuff is going to be better with the ER on it. So when you hear better or healthier, remember, don't fall for the gimmick terms. If a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 is the worst food in the world, I can give you a 7, and it's better than the 10, but it doesn't mean it's healthy with the Y. It's just healthier. See, that IER gets them every time. So be careful with the terminology. Healthier food and healthy food are not the same. You could have something that falls on between the 5 and the 1, meaning 1, this is the best thing you can eat. The 5, it's right in the middle. The 10 is the worst. Going from a 10 to a 7 is better. Going from a 5 to a 2 is better. Perhaps health may start at the 4 and can be healthier if you get a 3 or a 2 or a 1. But you can be healthier going from a 10 to an 8 to a 9 to a 6. But that doesn't mean it's healthy. It's just better than the other thing. Would you rather eat cyanide or processed sugar? Both fall on the bad side of the spectrum, but one is better or healthier because it has a lesser chance of killing you. So this is why you don't want to fall for gimmick terms and superfoods and all that stuff like that. So the question is, can diabetics have fruit? I believe so, based on the information available. Yes. Would I recommend they go concentrating heavy smoothies and fruits and stuff together? Well, that may be a healthy meal, but remember, your issue is you're at a deficit. You have too much going on in terms of energy in your body. You got too much energy in your body. You're not burning it faster than you're bringing it in. And you don't want to start being balanced when you're unbalanced. So what do I mean when I say that? If you are 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, you got a pretty normalized body, right? You can get the smoothie and then go to the gym and keep burning the smoothie off. But if you already have you got diabetes, right? You already got a ton of glucose floating around in that system, and your glucose tolerance level is high. So the moment you take anything, and it spikes real fast, causing some imbalancing issues in your body, right? Then in your case, you can't say, well, from now on, I'm going to have a smoothie every day and burn it at the gym, because what you're doing is you're holding at where you are. Your glucose is high, so you're going to start drinking smoothies and burning the amount that the smoothie gives you. But what about the excess glucose you built up that gave you the diabetes? You have to start bringing that down first. So playing this equal game is not going to help you if you're already at a deficit. It only helps a person who's already at an equal point. My blood sugar is regular, my blood pressure is regular, so my activity is regular, and it's based on drinking smoothies. So you have the smoothie, you do the exercise, maybe the smoothie is 400 calories, you burn 400 calories, you get a little sore, so during the healing of the soreness, your body's burning a few more because it needs the extra energy to burn up. Because your body's processes require energy too. Keep that in mind. So you have to have energy coming in every day. But you can't suddenly say, my health, I'm going to balance myself out with sweet foods and exercise without first bringing down the excess that's in the system. I hope this makes sense to you guys, right? Let me see what you guys are saying. Excellent tries in the building. What's going on? When should I drink water or juice? Should it be after eating? Yes. It's best you don't combine. Keep in mind, nature's food has the balancing already attributed to it. That's where you get those stories of people who say that they eat all fruit and they don't actually drink any water and they've been fine. It's because it contains everything needed to make the cycle happen. Like watermelon, right? You're going to have less fibrous material than water inside of it. So by the time it breaks itself down, there's going to be some gel-like water. Bring back our example, right? There's going to be the gelling already of the water, the fiber content, that's going to keep your digestive tract slick so that things move through smoothly, including all the bathroom breaks. This keeps things like colon cancer at bay. The fibers. Imagine having something like this gliding across your digestive tract. It's going to stick around, and because it's got this like net-like effect, it's like a net, right? It's kind of like when you get a virus or bacteria in your system and your nose clogs up, you get like what they call sinusitis. It's because the gel is trapping anything from going into the system. This is one of the most efficient ways of defending your system. The gel can be used to trap the viruses, the bacteria, the particles, and things from going further in your system, which is why when you blow your nose and you take medications that break down your immunity, you know, let's say you got sinusitis, you got the clogged up nose, and it's uncomfortable, so I get it. So you take a decongestant, and what you do is you just taking a chemical formula that actually stops the process your body was using to keep more materials from going further into your system. So now it's like a race against time. Does the medication kill the problem and unclog the system before more particles and bad stuff develops and tries to go further back? So think about it. You got pollen and allergens and all kinds of crazy stuff around you. So your nose starts to run and the sheet of gel starts to form. And if particles are running into a sheet of gel, it's trapping it, which is why the mucus that you're developing turns color, because it's trapping things that are trying to get in. So you blow your nose, right? I take a napkin, I blow my nose when the pollen and stuff is all around. And what did I do? Okay, I eliminated what was clogged up in there, but I just opened the passage up, giving me a chance to breathe and let it go further in. Same thing goes with, you know, these diseases and things that try and get in. We got sinusitis because our body is blocking the ability for the problem to go further in. It's in the cardiovascular passageway. So if I'm breathing in through the mouth and the nose, they unify near the back of the throat, leading down into the lung area. So if I unblock my sinuses, the sinusitis, the inflammation in the sinuses, inflammatory reaction that blocks and allows defenses to happen there, you just opened it up so that now it can travel further back. And if it goes further down the digestive passageway, it's going to reach the bronchial tubes, which is like a big, think of your lungs as like a big upside down tree, right? So, you know, hopefully my light won't glare too hard, but let's give you two examples, right? Here is we have a tree, and then we have, show this to you guys in a second. And then we have, so if you guys look at this, right? So you have a tree, and then you have your breathing passageway, which is the upside down tree, right? Because air comes down the passageway, and this big bronchial tube, that big passageway right here, that's the bronchial tube. And so when you're breathing, you're passing things down that bronchial tube, and if you allow it to get out of the sinuses and go further back, now you got bronchitis. So that itis being the inflammation being on the other end. So it's the upside down tree, the tree of life, the one that you breathe in through to help you get it. And it branches off, right? It's you breathe in through the nose and the mouth, and at the back the passages unify and it leads into the throat where you got the esophagus and all this stuff like that. Then you got the bronchial tube, and then it branches off like you saw in the picture, and then it becomes bronchioles, which would be like tiny tree branches to further diffuse the air down. And then at the bottom, there's these grape-like sacs, which you can call the fruit, which we call alveoli, and they expand and contract. I want you to think of alveoli like little grapes, except they got surfactant. It's a fluid in there that allows it to the tissues to expand and contract. So breathe in, breathe out. And the liquid surfactant, like I said, everything's got to be liquefied, right? Mainly in a gel state. That allows it to stay slick so that it can keep expanding and contracting, okay? So that's what keeps it coming in. You let the bad stuff come further back, so you go from the sinusitis to the bronchitis to the pneumonia, where now you got that fluid build up down at the bottom of the lungs trying to trap stuff, and that's making it harder for you to breathe, okay? Let me see what you got. So yes, you should drink the water and the juice after eating, if necessary, because like I said, things that tend to have a lot of water in them, you don't tend to be thirsty. You don't have to just drink water just for the hell of it. If you got a lot of water in the fruit or the food you're eating, it's going to hydrate you already. And your body has a way of, if you mix your food properly, the digestive juices that come into your digestive tract are actually built for the food you got. Now here's the thing. In perfect harmony, we have oils and little receptors on our hand. And fruit tends to have little fibers and receptors too, if it's well made. And like this, if this fruit had that wax on it, your body wouldn't be able to pick it up. Sometimes they wax the fruit to kind of coat it and protect it a little bit, and then you got to try and clean that off. But the fruit, when you touch it, the oils on your hand and the receptors here and from the fruit can actually, if your body's had touched or had it before, remember it's a sensor. So your body can actually detect what's coming in. It's prepping digestion well before it hits the stomach. That's what it's trying to do. We're trained kind of to like grab stuff and just munch and wolf it down as fast as possible without proper chewing and creating the bolus with our saliva and all that. Then our body's got a little more work to do, you know, because by chewing, you also introduce enzymes and things from your body where if there's anything dangerous within it, you actually help break that up and destroy it sometimes. So there's different methods of defense. Like your nose does have a spiraling filter. When you breathe in through the mouth or the nose, it spirals in. The gel sheet protects there. Guess the reason people say you don't have, they always say you don't have a filter in your throat. You do. Most people have it cut out when they're young because of inflammatory things that happen when they're young, but it's their tonsils. Your tonsils is the defensive mechanism for the throat area. You see what I mean? So if you have that, then you do have a breathing mechanism. Now, is it preferable to breathe in through the mouth than the nose? No. But the tonsils are there to help as a trapping mechanism. You guys ever eat, there's certain foods when you eat it, you notice and it builds up a lot of mucus within the throat lining. That's happening because of the gel sheets being created by that tonsil lining. And the tonsils are not just a speed bag-like thing in the back. It's actually on the edges. If you look inside your mouth, it kind of looks like a McDonald's sign. And where the hook meets in the middle, that's the part we use the speed bag-looking thing that we call the tonsils. But it's actually like 3 zones. And it circles that whole back of the mouth kind of part. So that helps. So you breathe in, you got that gel sheet-like mechanism, and it traps things as it goes back. So, and if you're chewing your food properly and creating the saliva, the bolus kind of thing, that helps even more because now you're talking about a gel surface meeting a gel surface. So as these things slide along the throat and the digestive tract, things get coated and grabbed easier, especially in the stomach, which means now what? Your absorbability of your food goes up higher, especially for those of you with iron issues. You don't have a lot of absorbability, and you start to see a lot of people with gut issues don't have a lot of absorbability because they've put drying foods, bad foods into their body. Eventually, over time, the chemicals, like let's say meat sitting in your stomach and putrefying, right, is what they call it. You got fermentation of fruits, putrefying of meats and stuff. So when that stuff ferments, and then, you know, there's no fiber, there's no gel-like structure, there's nothing to keep the coating of the inside of the body slick because eventually the acids and stuff eat up the hydration linings that you have, and eventually it sheds away at the lining and the skin of the digestive tract, which means now big proteins and stuff can get in. There's your alert allergens, right? You get your rheumatoid factors, which means waste goes in the muscle, and you get the osteoporosis, which means your body, because you're not giving it proper mineralization, your body eventually has to keep buffering acids by pulling alkaline minerals out of your bones. And eventually, remember, it's bone. If it's pulling it out the bone, that's going to run out someday. They call it, or you may call it, because you were raised to, you call that age. When really, age is nothing more than your body being capable of something because of how long you've been doing it. So saying I've been eating this 20, 30 years and nothing ever happened is not a good excuse because you literally just explained to a person that you've been doing something long enough to get the damage you got from it. Okay? Hope that all makes sense. Let's see. Yes. When you get into scientists, you gotta do research, right? Most of us are pulling, like right now, I'm talking to you guys because people wrote books and scientific articles and stuff about the society we live in today. When it all first began, nature, man, animal, there was a thing for you and a thing not for you. So go to the tree, pull a fruit off, eat it. No scientific articles, nothing trivial, just taste and effect. That's it. Now you got what's in the soil, what products are. Let me look at the ingredient label. Like, you know, now you got all that. You didn't have that before. You didn't require all that. That's why it's easy to just say, when people say, what do I eat? Return to the source. Yes, the source has been tainted, so you got to get your study on a little bit, but you take care of the soil. You water it. You make sure it gets sunlight. You grow it. You watch it. What's the question? That's the best you're going to get. If you're doing that and there's still problems, you need to find out if you're being sabotaged or perhaps something is going on in the atmosphere you're not familiar with. What we call the science, or today anyway, what we call the science today is nothing more than people tampering with things and creating new rules for it. Because if we're going to tamper with something, we got to say how we created it. Now you're supposed to take it down. Like I said, this is fiber. This is not a big, like, I'm messing with this, but it's not a thing. It's not a thing to take it down and eat it. I can eat it now. In the beginning, before it gel like this, I could drink it. And then you gotta wait for it to gel while it's in your digestive tract. Look at that hang time. And that is psyllium husk. You're not gonna spike sugar because there's no sugar in it. Basically, if someone said, what's it taste like? Imagine taking oatmeal and shredding it real fine and then dumping it in the water and watching it gel up. That's it. It's a very light oatmealish taste. Like it's not going to be possible to say like, oh, it's nasty. But see how this is gel? You put that in a smoothie, you can thicken it. See, it's a bunch of, you start learning different stuff. Then there's different ways you can make things happen, and still remain healthy. See, look at that jelly. That's sliding through your digestive tract. It's going to carry things with it. It's going to allow the microvilli, the little finger-like projections on the edge of your digestive tract, to grab and pull minerals in. Now your absorbability goes up. And if you're eating it straight out of nature, then you know if you pull these things out of your garden patches and things like that, you're introducing new healthy bacteria to your body. Because remember, wherever things grow, there's the associated bacteria. The diversity of bacteria, like there's a diversity of humans around the world, the diversity of bacteria is going to come with it, which means it's going to have more of an affinity to break down the food you're eating because it comes with the food. You see me and my wife in the garden. Generally what happens, let's say I were to pick this apple out of the garden. Now everybody's wondering what happened in the wind, the bugs and stuff like that. I'm the type of person where I let saliva hit it. Let's say a strawberry, I'll pinch the greens back. I'll put the strawberry in my mouth and let saliva hit it, move it around and pull it out. And then I'll collect it, I'll spit, and then I'll eat the strawberry. And that's how I can do things outside of just like dusting it off. Like that's how I can clean off like any of the macro, meaning large little particles on top of it. Clean that out first, then eat it directly. Chew it enough, let the saliva collect. There's going to be tiny particles I didn't get off of it, and some of that is going to be the bacteria and enzymes and all those things that I need to have in the food so that my body can understand what's going on in that environment. That's why they say local food helps you the best, because plants can't run. If there are toxins and problems in your environment and the plants are getting hit with it too and they're surviving, that means the plant is creating a protein structure within itself and a mineral structure and a water structure within itself that can defend against that environment. So when you eat from your own environment, you increase the chances of not having allergen problems, not having issues with the diseases and stuff that are in the surrounding environment, because you have given yourself. Remember, your body's a collection of a bunch of things: viruses, bacteria, fungi, all kinds of stuff. We're just a conglomeration of all these things. So when we put those things in us, our body is going to self-balance the amount that should be in there. And then when something from that environment comes into your body, those things will come walking up saying, hey, we are used to this, we'll handle it. So you get the apple from where you live at, then the bacteria and enzymes and things in your body that are used to handle that, they will help break it down. They will also help unpackage the fibers so that things like B vitamins and things can be created, so you can unlock all of the vitamins and minerals inside the food. Right? How long does it take to break your food down? If it's thicker food, some water may help to get it down, but you don't want to drink so much while you're eating. You thin your digestive enzymes out. Right. Yeah, if the food is extra thick, chances are, I'm trying to think. Generally, when you're eating veggies, you'll chase with some water because they tend to not have a lot of water in it and they're very high in fiber. Or you would have to just chew them a whole lot. But you're meant to have a good mixture of fruit and veggies, and I would say melanated people are a little higher on the fruit category. People from cold climates are a little higher on the fat category. Both need the protein. So the protein is a given. And what is protein? Remember, protein are not big chunks of some random thing you get out of meat. They keep making you think that. Protein comes from veggies. Proteins are The alternate name is amino acids. Look at what things break down into. Protein breaks down into amino acids because a protein is made up of amino acids. So if you bring in a bulk protein, it has to be broken down into amino acids. Plants make amino acids. That's why they call them incomplete and complete proteins. Complete protein means all of the essential proteins you need to build things in your body is included in that food. But you can eat a mixture of foods together and create a complete body of proteins. You know, phenylalanine, tyrosine, histidine, lysine, glycine, glutathione, tons of different types of glutamine, tons of different types of amino acids. So you eat the meat, that means that the amino acids have already come together to build that animal. Your body can't use it in that structure, which is why it takes so long to digest. It takes longer to break down to get to the amino acids. Then your body can say, now that we have the amino acids, let's build it back up. The problem is if the food putrefies in your gut before your body gets to it, now your body's looking for ways, it's dumping minerals from out of your bone to alkalinize the system because the acids building up inside of you need to get out. So your body will shed bone, dump the calcium and the alkaline minerals on top of the acids to buffer them so they're not destroying your system, then take liquids out of your system to help wash it out. So you're putting your body through a lot more hell when you eat the meat. Now, you do help it out when you exercise because you're creating a heat and a faster pumping of the blood to make your body do more work, to break things down, to get energy into your system. And things that get torn down need to be built back up. So your body's going to create a system where now you're doing such hard, heavy lifting and big workout, your body's trying to break down those proteins faster, that the proteins that people call meat. It's breaking them down faster to unleash the nitrogen, couple it with the oxygen, which is why when you're working out real hard, you're breathing so heavy, you're drawing in more oxygen, you're breaking apart the nitrogen inside the protein, creating nitric oxide, and using the minerals to build your body back bigger so that it can withstand the pressure of the bigger and heavier weights. That's why you get bigger or denser. So the proteins that come in meat are denser and heavier, and it's going to be used to make your body bigger so you don't break under the pressure. It's not that it's a preference. Your body's dealing with survival. If something you put over top of yourself, you lift heavy weight and you're struggling, your body knows that's a pressure that's starting to cause a collapse of the system. Putting 200 pounds of weight above your head and you're skinny, you're feeling downward pressure on the spine. That pressure creates friction. The friction is heat, and the heat is another name for inflammation. If the heat builds up strong enough and the pressure is too great, it creates micro tearing within the system. The micro tearing within the system causes fluid leakage into the area, which makes it swell. It causes redness. It causes heat. That's the definition of inflammation. It is also a signal for your body to send in white blood cells to eat up and clean out the debris so that the new minerals and materials, the blood, remember the blood, the vein, that system is the shipping system. Food is eaten, materials are received, flows through the bloodstream, things are in packages, wherever it is needed, cells pull it in, enzymes, things in your body go to work, start healing and repairing the location. When? When you go to sleep. See how it works? You do things to tear down, which means your body's feeling some form of pressure from the environment. It learns information. It says that if this is the pressure you're going to put on yourself, I'm going to build your system strong enough to not break under that pressure. So you keep putting pressure on yourself, you get bigger. What else is happening when you get bigger? You're an electric creature. Your bones are piezoelectric, meaning when they get struck, they generate electricity. Your food has electrons in them. Alkaline foods give electrons to acid foods, which are protons. The electrons come in, and if your body has more bone, more muscle, there's more area for the electricity to dissipate when pressure is put on. So now you jump from a low position. If it hurt before, when your body pounds and makes your bones more dense, your muscles more bigger, now when you jump from that position, when that piezoelectric bone receives that strike, that electricity starts to expand out from receiving the pressure. If you have more bone or denser bone and more muscle, there's more places for the electricity to escape and dissipate, which means you can withstand the pressure. So bigger muscles or denser muscle, bigger bone or denser bone, That's the capacity to handle more electricity, which is more energy, which means you can do more work. And what is the money used to do the work? Food for fuel in the form of calories. Calories break down into ATP. ATP is the currency that gets used when you work out to make mechanisms of action happen. Mechanisms like what? Contracting and expanding a muscle. You need calcium and magnesium to do that. Magnesium is a relaxer. Calcium is a contractor. What makes calcium work? Vitamin D. What is vitamin D attached to? Signaling, hormones, something that tells your body what to do. What's attached to hormones? Thyroid. Thyroid needs iodine, zinc for integrity, for electric flow. What else is in there for electric integrity? Potassium, sodium. Sodium controls the amount of water balance in the body. Potassium controls the electrical current. Say it keeps connecting. If it keeps connecting, you know your info is sound. It's crazy. Give me a second, guys. Make sure this isn't crazy, right? You know, you always got to get one of them crazy calls, right? All right, let me see what else you guys got. Right, now that we done walked through that. Let's see what other questions we got in here. How long? Oh yeah, we got the question from Emmanuel. How long does it take to break your food down? Depends on how dense and complex the food is. Obviously, meats and stuff, that's very dense food. It's protein structure your body can't use, and there's no fiber in it. And we already looked that up on the stream, so you guys can look that up easily on your phone. Is there fiber in fish? Is there fiber in lamb? Is there fiber in chicken? Beef, pork, turkey? There is none. Which means there's nothing to create the gel structure, there's nothing to create the bulk, there's nothing to create the packaging in order to allow your body to remain slick and keep things moving smoothly. Fiber, you notice in my conversation, is extremely important. A lot of people don't get fiber because they stack meat in every meal. They're taking in way more than they're letting out. What is it? Breakfast, right? We eat the breakfast. What's the common breakfast stuff? The processed sugar and fats and carbs in the way of French toast, pancakes, and then we have our meats, again, no fiber, chicken sausage, pork sausage, beef sausage, scrapple if you want to have at that. What else do we have inside of our mix? We got the eggs. People know eggs, they're looking at that cholesterol thing. Make sure you guys are looking the simple things up too, because even I get caught not doing that. Cholesterol is made in your own body. It's synthesized from the liver using fatty things that come from fatty foods like avocados, coconut meat. So your body makes cholesterol. It makes cholesterol equivalent to the body type you have and to do the functions you need. Generally, African Americans or African people are going to need more cholesterol being built because of their melanin. It's a requirement for vitamin D synthesis. So if you have more active melanocytes, your body's going to have more cholesterol on standby waiting to convert to vitamin D. That's one thing. The second thing is hormones. Estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, things like that. You need cholesterol to create that. The big one, damage. When there's damage in your body, within the muscle cells, especially within your veins and arteries and things, cholesterol is a patcher for that. So when the doctor tests your cholesterol, it's looking at what's in the blood. If there's a lot in the blood, that means there's a lot of activity going on. If the activity is damage-based, coming from bad food primarily, and damage happening to your body, well, there you go, right? So that's what's going to be spiking your cholesterol. You're just doing a lot of bad eating, or you're not getting enough sun, because your body, remember, your darker skin, the darker you get, the more cholesterol on standby waiting for them UV rays to convert to vitamin D. You don't bring it in, that high amount is just sitting there waiting. If you start putting damaging foods in your body and you're not getting sun, well, now a lot of that cholesterol is being diverted to patch up damage. And your body has things that it has to call out as instructions when you have damage in your body, so you're using more for that. So there's signals that's letting you know. So what is the HDL, LDL, VLDL? It's talking about the integrity of the cholesterol and fat that's being combined in your body to perform work. So when your cholesterol's in your body is being shuttled with a bunch of negative stuff rolling through your body, they see that as bad cholesterol. When it's a bunch of good stuff being shuttled through your body, that's HDL, that's good cholesterol. It's a shuttling thing. What's inside the cholesterol shuttle? Good fats, good minerals, and different things moving through your body, or bad fats, bad triglycerides and minerals moving through the body. If you get bad stuff and cholesterol combined rolling through the body in high amounts, it starts to leave debris as it's moving through your veins and arteries and things. That debris being left behind gets eaten up by white blood cells. When they get full and stuffed, they become foam cells, and they leave debris behind when they die sometimes. That's the plaquing that happens in your arteries. That's what's causing it, not the cholesterol in and of itself. Okay? So the food you're eating, the less dense the food, the more fiber. So high fiber foods are going to take a little longer to digest. Foods with no fiber is going to take even longer to digest, and highly nitrogen-based foods like meats are going to take even longer. So meats climb up to, if you got a terrible digestive tract, you're in that 72-hour and up area for digesting meat. Standard, you're looking at 24 to 48 hours for digesting meat, but there's no fiber, so your body has to do a higher process. So that digestion time is already too high, because you're supposed to have a bowel movement for every meal you eat. Generally within 2 to 4 hours would be, you want to look at a baby, how fast babies go. That's what you want to use as your standard. So fruits, highly watery fruits, you'll probably see yourself start going to the bathroom with the normal system within 2 to 4 hours. We're talking, if you ate a lot of food, then you're talking about a number 2 within 4 hours. You'll start peeing quickly. If it's like chunks of watermelon, you'll probably start peeing quick, like within about a half an hour to an hour, because water moves through the system very fast, but not as fast as an IV drip. That's why it's kind of hard to hydrate a person who's dehydrated. You don't want to reach that point, because IV drips push it right into the bloodstream, which means it's active instantly. So it's immediately hydrating because it's moving right where the cells can grab it. Drinking water, not so fast, because it has to come down, go through the checks and balances of the digestive tract, then move into the bloodstream to be used for you to even get to the point of hydrating or peeing out. So these things can be fleeting. So you're talking 4 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, a couple of days, depends on how dense the food is and how far away from nature it is. Nature's food has the fiber, the water, and the minerals inside of it. So it's prepared to do everything it needs to do. If the stomach is cleansed and it's clean and it's ready, then you're going to get the maximum reaction out of the whole and healthy foods. So that's the digestive food part, right? Google Me is in the building. What else we got? Been slacking with the watermelon this year. We got one. Hold on, let me bring one. My wife grabbed one up. Ready for the cutting. Trying to decide if maybe I want to make a juice out of this on live stream. I don't know. You guys let me know. Bing, bang, bounce. Big Husky. This show got a lot of water in it. Someone used to tell me that if you knock on it and it was hollow, that meant that it was going to be really sweet. Maybe. Because sweetness means that the glucose crystals are starting to concentrate through fermentation. So things get sugary the longer they sit. So having a nice balance of sweetness and water is really what you want. Obviously, like any fruit, you let them sit too long. The reason you start hearing the hollow noise more and more is because the sugars is starting to dry out on the inside. The sugars are starting to concentrate. So that's what causes that to be a big deal. So yep, watermelon. Why sugar affects vitamin C and potassium. Vitamin C is actually it's a water soluble thing. So if you're bringing in, it's a water soluble vitamin. So keep in mind, if you're bringing in a bunch of sugar in your body, no matter what kind, right? You have to understand that, especially if you're not eating like proper fruits. Like let's say this, right? You're going to be losing a lot of water trying to get rid of that sugar. So when you're losing a lot of water, you're losing a lot of water-soluble vitamins too. It's kind of like with B vitamins. If you have a lot of water in your body, you can kind of help dehydrate yourself from going through too much stress. So you want to keep the water and the liquids coming in, because B vitamins are water-soluble. So anything water-soluble is going to move with water. Anything fat-soluble is going to move with fat. Potassium has a lot to do with the regulation of electrical current within your body, which is why it's hard to mess with potassium when you have kidney issues. So kidney is about water retention, and non-water retention works together with the colon and the liver. So with potassium, you want to be real careful with the amount of water flowing through your body to keep toxins and things out, because if you destroy your kidney, you're going to have an issue with potassium naturally because that's a part of the ability to balance potassium. You have to, what's the term they use for it? Your body uses something called, it uses an osmosis thing, which is this thing where things of high concentration tend to move to areas of low concentration. So it does this diffusion thing throughout your body, from the tissues to the cell to the interstitial fluid. If there's a lot of salt over here, potassium, things like that, then what's going to happen is the area where it's low, things are going to start to diffuse. Your body does this self-balancing thing with minerals. The big six I always talk about are potassium, sodium, because they go together, sodium, potassium, pump, calcium, magnesium, contract, relax, and then you have your digesters, which is going to be your alkaline, which is bicarbonate, and chlorine, the other mineral, because that's hydrochloric acid, right? So those are your big six. Sodium and potassium run a balance on one another. So you start messing with the waters of your body, dehydrating it and things like that, which diabetes is well known for doing because of the sugar. You're messing with the water regulation, and vitamin C carries with water. Vitamin C is also known for defense mechanisms. It's actually used in your in the antioxidant system. When we talk about my brother's keeper, the keep one molecule, that's part of that cascade when you're turning peroxides and things like that back into water so they don't do damage. Vitamin C is a part of that cascade. So is iron in the form of what they call catalase. So keep those things in mind. So vitamin C, defense mechanism, antioxidant mechanism. When you got a lot of damage in your body, which diabetes can do, you're going to be running that antioxidant system ragged. Also, vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin, and sugars tend to run through your waters. So keep those things in mind. Potassium just being regulating the electric current. If you're bringing in a lot of sugar into your body, it's kind of like overcharging a battery. So if potassium regulates electricity for the heart, kidneys, and different things within your body, you want to be careful with diabetes because you're running the risk of drying out the kidney, the liver, the pancreas, things like that, which does damage because there's too much friction. No water, no gel-like structure, no movement, or movement gets harder, and harder movement creates more friction. Friction creates heat. Heat is inflammation. Inflammation, chronic inflammation, drying, tears the system down. Too much heat, too much friction, shaving things apart, right? So these things are all connected. Let me see if people complain that if they go to the toilet on a regular and they have eaten something that doesn't agree with them. Depends. Remember, Dr. Layla Africa told us that constipation goes both ways, too dry, too wet. So you have to keep that part in mind. This is why I said you're not really now when you mentioned foods agreeing with you, that's environment. That was why earlier I was talking about foods that come from your environment. Now we do a lot of mixing. So this is why now we're all kind of stuck chasing our tail, trying to find out, what about me? Where do I come from? How does my body respond? Like, for instance, me growing up, I grew up in a family that does eat a whole lot of meats. So it's funny, when I started getting older, started learning more about health, I was having more issues with digesting things that were healthier. And the meats were digesting faster. Why? Because I colonized probably my entire digestive tract with enzymes necessary for breaking the foods down I grew up with. So when it was time to start eating the fruits and veggies, probably wasn't much there. And the fruits and veggies in the beginning were not coming out of a garden, not created from my local environment. They were coming from a supermarket where things were shipped from Costa Rica and California all the time. So you got to deal with that. Now, if you're having allergic reactions and stuff, now you need to start looking into your genetics. You're learning something about yourself. Why do things that people normally eat in these environments bother me? Because the genetic compounding does not agree with the environment you're in. So it's time to find or change the environment to a place where you receive things better. I have friends who can't eat bananas, can't eat strawberries, but plums, mangoes, those things aren't really an issue. Sometimes the foods that favor a certain environment start to be better to that person, so they start to investigate that culture and see if the foods from that culture agree better with them to get that digestive system moving smoothly. But even if you come from a culture that might be more let's say meat-based, there's still no fiber in it. Our digestive tract is not built for that. It's like 30 feet long. Animals is 10 feet long, and the acid is stronger. It's not built for you. So yeah, you'll survive for a long period of time. Your body will get more efficient at breaking down meats and stuff like that, and you'll try and recover by using a bunch of alkaline substances, and you're doing life extension off of doing bad dietary things, but it's because now you know you're working out the science, the chemistry, not because you're doing something that's quote unquote natural. So that's up to you. You learn the science and the math and all that. You start to learn how to put bad things together with good things and with other things, and things start working in your favor. That's what science has been all about. The current Western standard is about how to break things apart and create a system where money is made, enjoyment is had, but profit and sales are made too. And along with that comes danger, because you're investigating how human bodies receive it, so you create regulations. The regulations are because they're saying, well, I mean, yeah, we kind of got this thing going on, but because it ain't natural, you might want to be careful with how you do it. How many cigarettes should I have? How much meat should I eat in a day? How much weed can I have? How many of these vitamins can I consume before it starts doing damage? You get into all of that. Rounder watermelons are sweeter. We could check that out. Let me see. Why is that melon so dark? Because this melon is melanated. No, I don't know. Like, sometimes they're striped, sometimes they're not. That might not be environment, but I always took the impression that a darker watermelon is a better thing. When I see pigment gets darker, I see that as a better thing. Concentrated pigment. That's what I see it as. Because remember, when colors combine, they create gray, brown, and black. So when you combine the colors in the electromagnetic spectrum, the one that gives us our electricity, our pulsar, and the melanin that you can see, the reason you're seeing darker colors is because that is an intelligent body part. Melanin means that all of the colors within that spectrum are unified. And because they are unified, it means that they're familiar with those frequencies of vibration, which means they can interface with them. You cannot have something that's, you can't take white and just think you're going to consistently interface with purple. Because when we look at the color spectrum, purple is a little further away. It's in the UV spectrum. So you can't be bombarding yourself with high amounts of something that you're just getting correlated with. This is the skin dilemma. When we get hit with ultraviolet rays, remember, it's higher on the UV spectrum. So if your body is transducing that ultraviolet ray faster, it's because you have more of a thing that can interface with it, which is the skin melanin. Everyone has neuromelanin, which is in the brain, which is inside the nerve fibers of the body. You got the substantia nigra, substantially black. So all of the things that are brown and black, eyes, right, your eye color, it's because the intelligence to interface with more pigment in the form of vibrations is there. So when you look at the electromagnetic spectrum and you see the reds, the greens, the blues, the blacks, the browns, the reds, the orange, all that good stuff, black is the unification of all of them. So when a certain color comes in, the black can separate it out, because it's like, I'm familiar with that. That's a part of my makeup. So I'm familiar with that. So if you send me ultraviolet rays, that is a color that's just vibrating. It's more amplified. It's a more amplified version of it, which means it's stronger. It's like me grabbing you by your collar and shaking you slow. You might be able to last all day. Go home, get some sleep, come back out. I can do this again tomorrow. That's what we call thresholds. That's what the Wi-Fi signal is based on. Wi-Fi issues are that same example. If I grab you and shake you, how much can you tolerate before something falls apart, or before you get sleep and it repackages itself and puts itself back together? So there's a certain amount I can grab you and shake you. That's the vibration, right? It's vibrating. I'm shaking something. I'm causing something to move rapidly to a certain degree, a certain amount of times per second. Hertz, right? How many times it circulates. I'm shaking this thing. If I shake it slow, it's going to probably get a little annoyed, little inflammation, but I'll go to sleep, repatch it back up. I'm ready to go the next day. That's the threshold. But then there's a certain point where I'm going to start shaking you so fast, you're not going to make it the whole day. Remember, I'm talking how Wi-Fi works, along with these vibrations. I might be able to shake you faster, but I can't take it the whole day, because something will break before it's time to go to bed, which is bad for me. So the threshold is shorter. I get on my cell phone because it receives vibrations, but it might say, don't stay on longer than 2 hours at a time per day. Why? Because the vibrations are shaking something so fast, it's tearing it apart. within over 2 hours, it's shaking it and tearing it apart to the point where it's doing bad damage. And you stack this over time, and you wind up with something happening years later. Someone tries to call it age. It's not age. It's how long you've been doing it. So this is why cell phone has a threshold, microwave has a threshold, computer, TV, they all have thresholds of vibrations if they're giving off a wireless signal. All that shaking, I'm using that as an analogy, all that shaking throughout the day is shaking stuff apart. And eventually you start to see the damage. The blue light is shaking those photoreceptors in the eye a lot. It's a lot for your body to process that, to the point where the pigment center runs it. Because remember, you might have a dark pigment center, but everything in the body has to do a recycling path. So you start to shake something melanated, you start to make it do too much work, eventually its capacity to do it, the saturation factor starts to lose its grip. So your body says, okay, that cell has to go through mitosis, divides, creates two daughter cells. We got brand new cells with brand new melanocytes, new melanin centers to keep the party going. Or we destroy the thing that causes that to happen, so now new melanated cells are not created, and eventually start getting white spots on your skin, and things start to lose your ability, because you're starting to slowly lose your melanocytes, and you're not building any back faster than you're losing them. So eventually the ability to receive radiation from the environment in many forms goes down, and eventually it catches up to you. We call it age, but again, how long have you been doing something?
Yep, it's a sugar baby melon.
Right. If you shake, that is a good one. If you shake it too hard, it hurts. That's a good one. That's a good pun there. Well, people, y'all got anything else for me? Or should we save it for the next live stream? Hold up, go this way. Better composition, right? Hold up, get it back together. Ah! Up. Hold on, guys. Got a call. I gotta take this. All right, peoples on the live stream, let me get back at y'all in a little bit. This is an important call I got to take. I think we got the best of the info out. I'm going to do my due diligence. Make sure you share the video to people who need it. Like the video if you're here. Subscribe if you haven't already. Right below my picture, you guys see the Cash App and the Instagram. Follow the Instagram so you always have updates in case anything happens to this channel. You know where to find me and perhaps even Dr. Inky, okay? Dr. Inky's event is at the end of this week. It's Sunday, July the 10th. It's at the theater. There's a live stream I got for it. Look at my history. It's at the theater in New York, and we're all going to be congregating there on Sunday the 10th. Send a Cash App if you guys appreciate the info, if it helps you out any. I appreciate that. I love you guys. I will talk to you on the next live stream.